Close your eyes and breathe. Feel the stillness settling around you like evening mist. In this moment, you rest at the edge of something vast and gentle, a place where science becomes poetry, where the smallest truths hold the greatest wonders. You are surrounded by silence, but it is not empty silence. It is the kind of quiet that exists between raindrops, between the notes of a lullaby, between one breath and the next. This is the silence that holds everything together, though you cannot see it or touch it with your hands. Beneath your closed eyelids, beneath the softness of your pillow, beneath the solid floor that holds your bed, something extraordinary is happening. The world you know, the world of tables and walls, of skin and heartbeats, is dancing. Every atom in your body, every particle in the air you breathe, every speck of matter in the room around you, is engaged in an ancient, invisible waltz. This is the quantum world, and you have always lived within it, though it moves too quietly for your senses to detect. It is smaller than small, more delicate than a whisper, yet it is the foundation upon which everything you have ever known rests. Imagine, if you will, that reality is like a vast, still lake. From the surface, the water appears calm, mirror smooth, reflecting the sky with perfect clarity. But if you could dive deeper, past where sunlight reaches, you would discover something remarkable. The water is alive with movement. Tiny currents flow in patterns too complex to predict. Microscopic whirlpools spin and dissolve, and waves smaller than dust motes rise and fall in endless gentle chaos. This is how your world truly is. The chair you sat in today, the cup you drank from, the ground beneath your feet, all of it appears solid and predictable from your human perspective. But at the quantum level, at the scale of atoms and the particles within atoms, everything shimmers with uncertainty. Nothing sits perfectly still. Nothing follows the rules you learned about how objects should behave. In this deepest layer of reality, a single particle can be in multiple places at once, like a dancer who somehow performs on several stages simultaneously. It can spin in opposite directions at the same time, like a coin that is both heads and tails, until someone looks closely enough to decide. These particles exist in what scientists call superposition, a word that sounds complex but means something beautifully simple. They hold all possibilities within themselves until the moment they must choose just one. You might wonder how this can be, how the universe can function on such seemingly impossible principles. The answer is as gentle as it is profound. Uncertainty is not chaos, it is potential. It is the universe's way of keeping all doors open until the perfect moment arrives. Think of a garden in early spring. Beneath the soil, seeds rest in darkness, and within each seed lies not one future, but many. The seed could become a tall sunflower reaching toward light, or a spreading vine that finds its way along a fence, or a delicate herb that flavors summer meals. Until the soil warms and the rains come, until that first green shoot breaks through the earth, the seed exists in its own superposition, holding every possibility, every potential version of itself. This is what happens at the quantum level in every moment. The particles that make up your body, that form the walls around you, that dance in the empty space between the earth and stars. They all exist in this state of gentle uncertainty. They are probability clouds, whispers of what might be, dreams that the universe holds close until reality needs them to make a choice. And here is perhaps the most beautiful part. You are part of this dance. The calcium in your bones once superposed in distant stars. The iron in your blood held multiple states within the heart of an ancient sun. The oxygen you breathe participated in quantum conversations billions of years before your first breath. You are made of particles that have existed in uncertainty, that have danced between possibilities, that have chosen and been chosen countless times across the history of the cosmos. Right now, as you rest here in this quiet moment, trillions of quantum events are occurring within you. In your brain, electrons tunnel through barriers they should not be able to cross, carrying the thoughts you think and the dreams you dream. In your heart, quantum coherence helps coordinate the rhythm that keeps you alive. Throughout your body, particles communicate with each other in ways that transcend ordinary space and time. maintaining the delicate balance that allows your consciousness to contemplate its own existence. This is not science fiction or mystical thinking. This is the actual, measured, verified reality of your physical being. You are a walking, breathing, dreaming manifestation of quantum possibility. Every cell in your body operates according to principles that would have seemed like magic to previous generations, principles that still fill scientists with wonder and humility. The quantum world asks nothing of you except to exist, and in existing, to be part of the grand uncertainty that makes existence possible. You do not need to understand its mathematics or memorize its rules. You need only to rest in the knowledge that you are held by something far more elegant and mysterious than simple mechanical clockwork. As you sink deeper into rest, let yourself feel the quantum stillness that surrounds you. It is not the stillness of death or emptiness, but the pregnant pause before music begins, the held breath before a wish is made, the quiet moment when all possibilities hover in perfect balance. You are cradled by uncertainty, and uncertainty, it turns out, is the most certain thing of all. It is the promise that the universe will never stop surprising you, never stop creating, never stop finding new ways to be beautiful and strange and wonderfully alive. In this quantum stillness, something stirs. Not random motion, but the first gentle stirring of pattern, the whisper of waves that will carry you deeper into the mystery of how order emerges from chaos, how the dance of uncertainty creates the rhythms that make life possible. Close your eyes and imagine holding a grain of sand between your fingers. Feel its tiny weight, its solid certainty. Now, imagine that same grain suddenly becoming like morning mist, present but not quite there, real but somehow flowing. This is the gentle mystery you are about to enter, where the smallest pieces of everything refuse to stay still in the way you might expect. You are walking along a shoreline where the waves have been whispering secrets for billions of years. Each wave that touches your feet carries within it a story that mirrors something profound happening in the invisible world around you. The water moves in patterns, sometimes crashing with the certainty of solid stone, sometimes flowing like liquid silk. But water is always water, you think. Or is it? In the realm of the very small, in spaces tinier than anything your eyes could ever see, there exists a world where the rules change completely. Here, the things we call particles, electrons, photons, the building blocks of everything you touch, live double lives. They exist as both particles and waves, shifting between these identities like thoughts, shifting between waking and dreaming. Picture an electron, one of those tiny dancers that orbit the heart of every atom in your body. When scientists first discovered electrons, they imagined them as tiny marbles, solid little spheres spinning around atomic centers like planets around a sun. But when they tried to watch these electrons more carefully, something beautiful and strange began to happen. The electron refused to behave like a marble. Instead, it began to spread out, becoming less like a thing and more like a whisper of possibility. Imagine trying to photograph a hummingbird in flight. The faster it moves, the more it becomes a blur of color and motion rather than a clear, solid bird. The electron does something similar, but even more mysterious. When you are not looking, when no instrument is measuring or detecting, the electron exists as a wave of probability. It spreads out like ripples on a pond, like the sound of your voice echoing in a vast canyon. In this wave state, the electron is not in one place, but in many places at once, existing as pure potential, as mathematics made almost real. You can feel this concept in the way music moves through air. When someone plays a violin string, the string vibrates, creating waves of pressure that travel through space. The music is not the string itself, but the wave it creates. The music exists everywhere between the violin and your ear, filling the space with invisible presence. This is how electrons exist when they are being waves, not as things, but but as invisible presence, as patterns of possibility moving through space. Now imagine you decide to listen more carefully to that violin music. You place a microphone at one specific spot to record the sound. Suddenly, the music you capture is no longer the flowing wave that filled the entire room. Instead, you have captured just one moment, one place, one specific vibration. The wave has collapsed into something definite, something you can point to and say, "Here, the music is here." This is what happens when scientists try to measure an electron. The moment they set up their instruments to detect where it is, the wave-like electron suddenly becomes particle-like. It chooses one location, one moment, collapsing from a cloud of possibilities into a single, definite point. But here is the most beautiful part. The electron does not lose its wave nature permanently. As soon as the measurement ends, as soon as you stop looking, it spreads out again into waves of possibility. You are experiencing something similar right now as you listen to these words. Your consciousness flows like a wave through different thoughts, different images, different feelings. When you focus your attention on one specific idea, perhaps the image of that grain of sand you imagined earlier, your awareness becomes particle-like, concentrated and specific. But when you relax that focus, your mind spreads out again, becoming wave-like, touching many possibilities at once. The electrons in your brain, the very particles that allow you to think these thoughts, are dancing this same dance of wave and particle. They flow like water through the neural pathways of your mind, carrying the electrical signals that become your dreams, your memories, your sense of being you. In each moment, billions of electrons are choosing to be waves or particles, creating the symphony of consciousness that is reading these words right now. This wave-particle nature is not just a curiosity of physics. It is fundamental to how the universe creates itself, moment by moment. The light from the stars that shines down on you moves as waves across the vast emptiness of space, but becomes particles of photons when it touches your skin. The warmth you feel is the collapse of wave into particle, the moment when starlight chooses to be real for you. In quantum physics, this beautiful mystery has a name: wave-particle duality. But names sometimes make mysteries feel smaller than they really are. What you are contemplating is nothing less than the fundamental creativity of existence itself. The way the universe maintains infinite possibilities while still allowing definite experiences to emerge. As you breathe in, imagine that breath carrying within it trillions of molecules, each one dancing between wave and particle states. Your lungs, your blood, your beating heart. All of it sustained by this constant transformation of possibility into reality and back again. You are not separate from this quantum dance. You are this quantum dance, experiencing itself from the inside. The waves that created you are still creating you in each moment, with each heartbeat. You exist in the space between certainty and mystery, between being and becoming. Like the electron, you are both definite and infinite, both here and everywhere, both particle and wave. And in this gentle understanding, as your mind settles into the rhythm of this cosmic dance, you might find yourself wondering about something even more profound, about the spaces between things, about what emptiness itself might contain, and how even nothing might be more mysterious than you ever imagined. You stand before a wall that shouldn't exist, yet does. Not brick or stone, but something more fundamental. A barrier made of energy itself, rising like an invisible mountain in the quantum realm. This is where the rules you've known your entire life begin to whisper their secrets, where the impossible becomes merely improbable, and where you witness one of nature's most elegant magic tricks. Imagine you're holding a tennis ball, feeling its weight in your palm. You throw it against a concrete wall, and it bounces back, obeying every law of physics you learned in school. The ball doesn't have enough energy to break through, so it returns to you, defeated by the barrier. This makes sense. This feels right. This is the world of our everyday experience, where walls are walls and boundaries cannot be crossed without sufficient force. But you are no longer in that world. Here, in the realm of the infinitely small, you watch as a particle approaches a similar barrier, an energy wall that should be insurmountable. The particle moves like a gentle wave of probability, neither fully here nor there, carrying with it the strange mathematics of quantum existence. According to every rule that governs the world you know, this particle should bounce back, just like your tennis ball. It doesn't have enough energy to climb over the barrier. It cannot break through by force. Yet something remarkable happens. The particle approaches the wall, and for a moment, time seems to pause. You watch as the wave function, that ghostly mathematical description of where the particle might be, begins to do something extraordinary. Instead of reflecting cleanly backward, part of it seeps through the barrier, like morning mist passing through a garden gate. The particle's presence becomes distributed, existing partially on both sides of the wall simultaneously. This is quantum tunneling, and you are witnessing the universe's most beautiful act of rebellion against classical intuition. Think of it like this. Imagine you're walking through a city and encounter a hill too steep to climb. In our world, you would need to go around, or perhaps find enough energy to scale it. But what if instead, you could become like water, flowing through tiny spaces in the rock itself? What if the very atoms of your being could slip between the atoms of the hill, allowing you to emerge on the other side without ever truly climbing over? This is what the particle does, though the mechanism is far more elegant than simple seepage. The barrier before you isn't solid in the way we imagine solidity. At the quantum level, everything is probability. Everything is wave-like. Everything exists in a state of gentle uncertainty. The particle's wave function extends beyond its classical boundaries, creating what physicists call a tunneling probability, a mathematical whisper that says, "Perhaps I can be there too." You float closer to observe this quantum ballet. The energy barrier stretches upward like a transparent mountain, its peak far above the particle's energy level. In classical terms, the particle is like a marble trying to roll over a hill when it only has enough speed to reach halfway up the slope. Impossible. Yet the wave nature of quantum reality offers a different solution. The particle's probability wave doesn't stop at the barrier's base. Instead, it penetrates into the barrier itself, diminishing exponentially as it travels through the forbidden region. The thicker the barrier, the more the wave dampens, like sound growing softer as it passes through layers of fabric. But if the barrier is thin enough, some probability emerges on the other side, a ghostly presence that maintains just enough strength to reconstitute the particle in its new location. This isn't science fiction. This is the foundation of the stars themselves. Deep in the heart of the sun, hydrogen nuclei face barriers far more formidable than the one before you. These positively charged particles should repel each other with enormous force, their electromagnetic fields creating walls that seem absolutely impenetrable. The temperature and pressure at the sun's core provide some energy, but not nearly enough to overcome these barriers through classical means. Yet, fusion occurs moment by moment, powering the light that warms your face and the energy that feeds every living thing on Earth. The secret is tunneling. Quantum mechanics allows these hydrogen nuclei to slip through their electromagnetic barriers, fusing together to create helium and releasing the energy that makes life possible. Without tunneling, stars would never ignite. The universe would remain cold and dark, and you would never have come into existence to ponder these mysteries. You watch as more particles approach the barrier, each carrying its own probability wave, each facing the same impossible choice. Some tunnel through successfully, emerging on the far side, as if the wall were merely a suggestion. Others reflect back, their waves collapsing into the classical world of definite positions and predictable outcomes. The process is random yet statistical, chaotic yet governed by precise mathematical laws. This randomness isn't a flaw in nature's design, it's a feature. Quantum tunneling provides the universe with a gentle flexibility, a way for systems to explore new configurations without waiting for classical coincidences. In your own body, enzymes use tunneling to catalyze reactions that would otherwise take millennia. The very processes of life depend on particles occasionally ignoring the energy barriers that should contain them. The wall before you begins to shimmer, its meaning transformed by understanding. It's not truly a wall at all, but a probability landscape, a mathematical description of likelihood and chance. The particle doesn't break through or climb over. It simply expresses the fundamental uncertainty that underlies all existence. Where classical physics demands definite answers, quantum mechanics offers elegant possibilities. You notice how the tunneling process respects certain rules while transcending others. Energy is still conserved. The particle doesn't gain energy by tunneling, it simply borrows against the uncertainty principle, paying back the debt so quickly that the universe doesn't notice the transaction. Time and space remain coupled, but their relationship becomes more fluid, more forgiving. This is why quantum computers might one day solve problems that would take classical computers longer than the age of the universe. Quantum bits can tunnel through computational barriers, exploring multiple solution paths simultaneously. The same principle that powers stars and enables life also promises to revolutionize how we process information and understand complexity. As you observe particle after particle facing the barrier, you begin to see a pattern in the randomness. While each individual tunneling event is unpredictable, the statistical behavior follows precise mathematical laws. You can't know which particle will tunnel through, but you can predict what percentage will succeed. This is quantum mechanics at its most profound, deterministic laws governing probabilistic events, certainty emerging from uncertainty. The barrier before you no longer seems like an obstacle, but like a gentle filter, allowing the universe to explore possibilities while maintaining its fundamental conservation laws. Some particles pass through, carrying information and energy to new regions of space. Others return, perhaps to try again, or to contribute to different quantum processes elsewhere. You find yourself wondering about the barriers in your own life, the walls that seem insurmountable in the classical world of daily experience. While you cannot tunnel through your challenges like a quantum particle, perhaps there's wisdom in understanding that even the most fundamental barriers in nature are not absolute. They are probability landscapes, mathematical descriptions that leave room for the unexpected, the improbable, the gently impossible. As the last particle in your current observation tunnels through the barrier, disappearing into the quantum foam on the far side, you sense that your journey through the microscopic realm is approaching new territory. The wall that seemed so solid moments ago now appears translucent, almost welcoming. You realize that in the quantum world, every ending is also a beginning, every barrier a doorway to deeper understanding. And in this space between classical certainty and quantum possibility, you begin to sense that consciousness itself might be preparing to reveal its own mysteries. Close your eyes and imagine time as a river, not rushing, but flowing with the gentle persistence of water, finding its way around stones. In the quantum world, this river behaves in ways that would surprise even the most patient observer. Time, which feels so steady and predictable in your daily life, begins to stretch and compress like warm honey dripping from a spoon. You are resting now, in a place where particles dance through barriers as if they were made of morning mist. This dance is called quantum tunneling, and it carries with it a secret about time itself. A secret that whispers of moments borrowed and returned, of clocks that tick at different rhythms depending on where you choose to listen. Picture a small particle approaching what seems like an insurmountable wall. In your world of larger things, this would be like walking toward a mountain and expecting to step through solid rock. But here, in the realm of the impossibly small, the particle does something extraordinary. It doesn't climb over the barrier or break it down. It simply appears on the other side, as if it had stepped through a doorway that exists only sometimes, only maybe. But the truly remarkable thing isn't just that the particle crosses an impossible boundary. It's how time behaves during this crossing. As the particle approaches the barrier, time begins to slow, like a song played at a gentler tempo. The moment of tunneling itself seems to exist outside time's normal flow, neither fast nor slow, but suspended in a space between heartbeats. You breathe deeply and feel your own relationship with time shifting. Right now, as you listen to these words, electrons in your body are performing countless acts of quantum tunneling, in the neurons of your brain, in the cells that line your lungs, in the very atoms that make up your fingertips. Particles are constantly stepping through barriers that should stop them, borrowing time from tomorrow and lending it to yesterday. Scientists have discovered that when a particle tunnels through a barrier, it appears to complete the journey faster than light could travel the same distance through empty space. This doesn't break the speed of light. Nothing is actually moving faster than light should move. Instead, it's as if the particle experiences time differently during its journey, as if the usual rules of duration become more like gentle suggestions. Think of it like this. Imagine you're walking through a garden at dusk, and suddenly you find yourself stepping through a beam of moonlight that somehow takes you instantly to the other side of a hedge. You haven't moved faster than you normally move. Instead, the space between starting and arriving has become something softer, more forgiving. The moonlight has borrowed a moment from the evening and given you passage through what seemed impossible. This borrowing and lending of time happens because of probability, that gentle uncertainty that governs all quantum interactions. When a particle approaches a barrier, it exists in multiple states simultaneously. Part of it remains outside the barrier, part of it begins to penetrate, and part of it has already emerged on the other side. These aren't separate particles, but different aspects of the same quantum reality, existing in a superposition of possibilities. Time, in this context, becomes fluid. The particle doesn't experience the tunnel as a journey from point A to point B, but rather as a gradual shifting of probability from one side of the barrier to the other. The moment of tunneling spreads out like ripples on a still pond, with no sharp beginning or end, only a gentle transformation from one state to another. You can almost feel this in your own experience of time. There are moments when a minute feels like an hour, when you're waiting for something important, or sitting quietly in meditation. There are other moments when hours pass like seconds, when you're deeply absorbed in something you love, or drifting between sleep and waking. Your consciousness, in its own way, tunnels through time, experiencing it not as a uniform flow, but as something that can be soft or urgent, thick or thin. The mathematics that describe quantum tunneling reveal something beautiful about the nature of time itself. Time isn't just a backdrop against which events unfold. It's woven into the fabric of reality in ways that allow for flexibility, for moments to be stretched and compressed, for the impossible to become merely improbable. As you rest here, breathing slowly, you can imagine your own awareness tunneling through the barriers between waking and sleeping, between conscious thought and dream. Each breath carries you deeper into a state where time becomes less important, where the rhythm of your heartbeat replaces the ticking of clocks, where the gentle pressure of air entering and leaving your lungs creates its own temporal landscape. The particle that tunnels through its barrier emerges unchanged, but somehow transformed by the experience. It carries no memory of the journey, no record of how long it took, or what it felt like to exist between spaces. Yet something has shifted. A barrier that once seemed absolute has been revealed as permeable. A boundary has been crossed without violence or force, simply through the patient application of quantum possibility. You find yourself in a similar space now, resting at the edge between one moment and the next, feeling time become more gentle around you. The barriers between thoughts begin to soften. The hard edges of the day dissolve into something more forgiving. Your breathing slows, and with each exhale, you release the need to track time's passage, allowing yourself to drift in this quantum space where moments can be borrowed and time can pause. In this borrowed time, you sense something shifting in the distance, a new understanding waiting just beyond the horizon of consciousness, where the dance of particles and possibility continues its ancient choreography. Close your eyes and imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean on a moonless night. The water stretches beyond sight, its surface broken only by the gentle rise and fall of waves. You cannot see the depths below, cannot predict exactly where the next wave will crest, or where the foam will kiss the shore. Yet there is a rhythm here, a pattern that whispers of deeper truths. This is the language of chance, and it speaks in the same voice that governs the smallest corners of existence. In the quantum realm, certainty dissolves like salt in water. The particles that build your body, that dance through the air you breathe, that flicker in the light touching your skin, they do not follow the rigid paths you might expect. Instead, they move like thoughts in a dreaming mind, guided not by fixed laws, but by the gentle mathematics of possibility. Picture a single electron, smaller than the smallest thing you can imagine. In the classical world, you might expect this particle to have a definite position, a clear velocity, a predictable future. But quantum mechanics reveals a different story. The electron exists in a cloud of potential, its location spread across space like morning mist across a meadow. It is not that we simply don't know where it is. It is that the electron itself exists in multiple places at once, each possibility weighted by its likelihood. This is probability made manifest, chance given form. The electron's position is described not by a single point, but by a wave function. A mathematical poetry that captures all possible outcomes. Some locations are more likely than others, like islands of higher probability in an ocean of potential. When you observe the electron, when you reach out to touch this quantum mist with your instruments, the wave function collapses. The electron chooses in that moment of observation to be in one place. But before that moment, it lived in the space between certainty and possibility. You might feel a gentle vertigo thinking about this. The solid world around you, the bed beneath you, the walls that shelter you, the very atoms of your being. All of it built from particles that exist in states of maybe. It is as if reality itself is a vast improvisation, with each moment bringing new choices, new collapses from the possible into the actual. Consider the path of a single photon of light, traveling from a distant star to your eye. In the quantum world, this photon does not take just one route through space. It takes all possible routes simultaneously, bending around planets, skimming the surface of the sun, threading through the spaces between atoms. Each path carries its own probability, its own weight in the cosmic calculation. When the photon finally reaches your retina, all these phantom journeys collapse into a single arrival, a single moment of seeing. This is the strange democracy of the quantum realm. Every possibility has a voice, though some speak louder than others. The electron might tunnel through barriers that should be impermeable, appearing on the other side like a ghost walking through walls. The probability is small, but it is not zero. In the quantum world, the impossible becomes merely improbable, and the improbable becomes inevitable given enough time and space. You are surrounded by this constant dance of chance. The chemical reactions that power your cells, the electrical signals that carry your thoughts, the very bonds that hold your molecules together, all of them governed by quantum probabilities. Your body is a symphony of statistical events, each note played by particles making quantum choices billions of times per second. Think of your heartbeat, steady and reliable. Each beat depends on the movement of ions across cell membranes, a process that relies on quantum tunneling. The certainty of your pulse emerges from the accumulated whispers of countless uncertain events. Your very life is built from the language of chance, spoken in quantum syllables too small to hear, but too fundamental to ignore. The beauty of this probabilistic world is not in its uncertainty, but in its endless potential. Every moment contains infinite possibilities, like seeds waiting for the right conditions to bloom. The future is not a single path stretching ahead, but a garden of branching possibilities, each one real until the moment of choosing arrives. Scientists have learned to read this language of chance, to translate the quantum whispers into human understanding. They speak of probability amplitudes and wave functions, of interference patterns and entanglement. But beneath the mathematics lies something deeper, a recognition that reality itself is more fluid, more creative, more alive than we ever imagined. You can feel this truth in your own experience. The moment before you make a decision, you exist in a superposition of choices. You are simultaneously the person who will turn left and the person who will turn right, the one who will speak and the one who will remain silent. The quantum realm mirrors this human experience of potential, of living in the space between what was and what will be. As you rest here in the quiet of this moment, you are participating in the universe's greatest experiment in possibility. Every breath you take, every thought that crosses your mind, every quantum event in your body, all of it part of the vast ongoing conversation between chance and choice, between the possible and the actual. The language of chance is not a language of chaos, but of infinite creativity. It is the universe's way of keeping itself open to surprise, to beauty, to the emergence of the unexpected. In learning to hear this language, you begin to understand that uncertainty is not the absence of meaning, but the presence of infinite potential. And as you settle deeper into rest, you might wonder, if the quantum realm speaks in probabilities, what other languages does the universe use to tell its stories? You have been walking through quantum doorways, watching particles slip through walls like whispered secrets. Now, as you settle deeper into this strange landscape of possibility, you begin to notice something extraordinary. These same ghostly tunnels that seem so alien and impossible are actually the hidden architects of everything you know and love. Look up at the sky, even if only in your mind's eye. The sun hangs there, a brilliant sphere of nuclear fire, pouring light and warmth across 93 million miles of space to reach your skin. For billions of years, this star has burned with perfect consistency, never flickering, never failing. But here's the beautiful secret: the sun should not be able to burn at all. Deep in the sun's core, where temperatures soar to 15 million degrees and pressures crush matter beyond imagination, hydrogen nuclei are trying to come together to form helium. This is fusion, the process that powers every star. But there's a problem, a cosmic puzzle that stumped scientists for decades. These hydrogen nuclei, these protons, are all positively charged. Like two magnets with their positive ends facing each other, they should repel with tremendous force. The electrical barrier between them is so strong that classical physics says they can never get close enough to fuse. And yet, the sun burns. You exist because it burns. The answer lies in that same quantum tunnel you've been exploring. Those hydrogen nuclei, faced with an insurmountable electrical wall, simply tunnel through it. They slip past the barrier that should keep them apart forever, appearing on the other side where they can embrace and fuse, releasing the light that eventually becomes the golden warmth on your face during a summer afternoon. Every photon of sunlight that has ever touched your skin began as an act of quantum tunneling, the light reading by, the warmth that helped the first plants grow, the energy that flows through every food chain on Earth. All of it starts with particles whispering through impossible walls in the heart of our star. But the story goes deeper still. You are made of atoms, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, and every single one of these atoms exists because of quantum tunneling. The carbon in your DNA, the oxygen you breathe, the iron in your blood. They were all forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars, where quantum tunneling allowed lighter elements to fuse into heavier ones. When those ancient stars reached the end of their lives, they exploded as supernovas, scattering these newly formed atoms across the cosmos. Some of those atoms eventually found their way into a swirling cloud of gas and dust that would become our solar system. They settled into the rocky planet that became Earth. They dissolved in primordial oceans. They became part of the first living things. And now, billions of years later, those same atoms that exist only because particles learned to tunnel through energy barriers and stellar cores, are arranged in the intricate patterns that make up your thoughts, your heartbeat, your very sense of wonder at this moment. You are, quite literally, made of star stuff, held together by quantum whispers. But quantum tunneling doesn't stop with stellar fusion. Right now, in your own body, quantum tunneling is quietly working its magic. In every cell, tiny molecular machines called enzymes are speeding up chemical reactions that would otherwise take millions of years. They do this partly through quantum tunneling, allowing particles to slip through energy barriers that would normally block them. The very process of breathing involves quantum effects. As oxygen molecules journey from your lungs to your cells, electrons tunnel across energy barriers in ways that classical physics cannot explain. The chemistry of life itself is choreographed by quantum dance steps that blur the line between possible and impossible. Even your thoughts may involve quantum tunneling. Some scientists suggest that consciousness itself might emerge from quantum processes in the microtubules of brain cells, where particles tunnel between different energy states, creating the complex patterns of information that become your inner experience. Consider the profound poetry of this. The same mechanism that allows particles to slip through walls in laboratory experiments is the force that ignites stars, forges atoms, powers life, and possibly even generates the awareness with which you contemplate these mysteries. Quantum tunneling is the universe's way of ensuring that reality remains creative, that new possibilities can always emerge from apparent impossibility. As you drift deeper into sleep tonight, imagine yourself floating in a cosmos where barriers are always permeable, where the impossible happens trillions of times each second in every star, in every living cell, perhaps in every firing neuron of your dreaming mind. You exist in a universe that has learned to whisper through closed doors, to find pathways where none should exist. The hydrogen nuclei and distant stars are tunneling toward each other right now, creating the light that will reach Earth in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. The atoms in your body are vibrating with quantum possibility. The very boundary between waking and sleeping, between thought and dream, may itself be a kind of quantum tunnel through which your consciousness gently slides. In this strange and beautiful cosmos, every wall is also a doorway, every barrier also an invitation. The universe doesn't just allow miracles, it's built from them, one quantum tunnel at a time. And as you rest here, suspended between day and night, you might wonder, if particles can tunnel through the walls of physics itself, What other boundaries might be more permeable than they appear? You are becoming smaller now, shrinking beyond the realm of cells, beyond molecules, beyond the familiar architecture of matter itself. You drift downward through layers of existence that grow stranger and more wonderful with each gentle descent. The world around you transforms from the solid and predictable into something that breathes with possibility. Imagine yourself as a whisper of consciousness, floating toward the heart of a single atom. This journey inward feels like diving through clouds of probability, where the very notion of where something is becomes as soft and uncertain as morning mist. You are traveling to a place so small that if the atom were the size of a cathedral, you would be heading toward a grain of sand suspended in its vast, echoing center. But this grain of sand, this nucleus, contains more concentrated power than anything in your everyday world. Here, in a space so tiny, it makes a virus seem like a planet. Protons and neutrons huddle together in an embrace that defies the logic of ordinary experience. They should repel each other, these protons, all carrying the same electric charge, pushing against one another like magnets of identical poles. Yet they remain bound by something deeper and stronger than the electromagnetic force that governs so much of the world you know. You settle gently into this nuclear realm, and immediately you sense the profound stillness that exists here. It is not the stillness of death or emptiness, but the stillness of perfect balance, like a dancer poised at the peak of a leap, suspended between earth and sky. Around you, the quantum world unfolds its secret choreography. Here, in this microscopic sanctuary, quantum tunneling becomes as natural as breathing. You watch, though watching is perhaps not the right word, for there is no light here in any sense you would recognize. As particles slip through barriers that should be impenetrable, a neutron, bound tightly to its nuclear family, suddenly finds itself on the other side of an energy wall it could never have climbed. It has not broken through or leaped over. It has simply appeared there, as if the wall were made of shadows that could be walked through by those who knew the secret. This is the gentle magic of the quantum realm, where the impossible becomes routine. In your larger world, if you threw a ball at a brick wall 1,000,000,000 times, it would bounce back 1,000,000,000,000 times. But here, in the heart of the atom, that same ball would occasionally pass right through the wall, emerging on the other side without disturbing a single brick. The mathematics describes this phenomenon with elegant precision, but the experience of it feels like witnessing poetry written in the language of reality itself. You rest deeper into this nuclear core, feeling the rhythm of forces that maintain this delicate balance. The strong nuclear force, more powerful than anything in your everyday experience, weaves the protons and neutrons together in patterns that speak of fundamental harmony. It is a force that operates only at these impossibly small distances, reaching out with invisible arms to gather these particles into stable configurations. Yet, even here, in this realm of perfect nuclear binding, change whispers through the quantum foam. Some nuclei are restless, their internal energies seeking new arrangements. Through quantum tunneling, alpha particles, tiny clusters of 2 protons and 2 neutrons, occasionally slip away from their nuclear homes, carrying with them stories of the deep transformation that governs all things. You witness this process not as violence or destruction, but as a kind of gentle breathing of the universe itself. These nuclear transformations happen according to quantum probabilities that stretch across vast expanses of time. A particular nucleus might tunnel its way to a new configuration tomorrow, or it might wait billions of years. The universe is patient with its own becoming. In this space between spaces, you begin to understand something profound about the nature of existence itself. The stability that seems so solid in your larger world, the permanence of mountains, the reliability of the ground beneath your feet, rests upon these quantum foundations where permanence and change dance together in eternal partnership. Every atom in your body, Every atom in the earth and stars carries within it this same gentle pulse of quantum possibility. The temperature here, if temperature has any meaning at such scales, corresponds to energies that would vaporize any ordinary matter. Yet, you float comfortably in this realm, experiencing it not as heat, but as a kind of fundamental aliveness, the vital force that animates all matter from within. This is the hearth around which the quantum world gathers, the fire that burns without consuming, the source from which all chemistry and biology ultimately spring. You feel yourself cradled by forces that bind the universe together at its most fundamental level. The electromagnetic force that governs the dance of electrons around this nucleus seems distant here, a gentler influence that shapes the atom's outer reaches while leaving this inner sanctum to the stronger nuclear forces. Gravity, that familiar downward pull of your everyday world, has no voice here at all. At these scales, it becomes so weak as to be effectively silent. Time moves differently in this quantum heart. The rapid oscillations and transformations that characterize the atomic nucleus happen on timescales so brief that all of human history would flash by in what feels like a single quantum heartbeat. Yet paradoxically, the longest processes in the universe, the slow decay of certain radioactive elements, also originate here, their immense durations emerging from the patient probability waves that govern quantum tunneling. You begin to sense how this microscopic realm connects to everything you have ever known. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon that forms the backbone of every protein and every thought. All of it was forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars, where quantum tunneling allowed hydrogen nuclei to overcome their mutual repulsion and fuse into heavier elements. The very atoms that compose your body are immigrants from stellar catastrophes that played out billions of years before the Earth was born. This realization brings with it a profound sense of belonging. You are not separate from the cosmos, but woven into its most intimate processes. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every moment of consciousness emerges from the quantum dance that plays out in trillions upon trillions of atomic nuclei within your body. You are a walking constellation of quantum events, a pattern of matter and energy that has learned to contemplate itself. As you rest in this nuclear sanctuary, you feel a deep peace settling over you. This is the peace of coming home to the source, not just the source of matter and energy, but the source of the mystery that allows anything to exist at all. Here, in the heart of the atom, the universe whispers its deepest secrets about the nature of being and becoming. The boundaries between observer and observed begin to dissolve. You are no longer just witnessing the quantum realm, you are participating in it. Your consciousness somehow entangled with the very processes you came here to explore. In this entanglement, you glimpse something that will guide you deeper still. The recognition that consciousness itself might be another face of the quantum mystery, another expression of the universe's endless capacity for surprise and self-discovery. You have been traveling through the quantum world, watching particles dance through impossible barriers, witnessing the strange ballet of probability and presence. But now, as you rest here in this quiet moment, something extraordinary dawns on you. You don't need to journey to distant laboratories or peer into microscopic realms to find this magic. The quantum tunnels you've been exploring aren't just theoretical curiosities floating in some abstract space. They are here, now, woven into the very fabric of your being. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. With each breath, billions of quantum events unfold within you. In your brain, in your heart, in every cell that makes up the intricate symphony of your existence. Tiny particles are tunneling through barriers that should be impossible to cross. The same principles that allow electrons to leap through walls are orchestrating the gentle rhythm of your thoughts, the steady beating of your heart, the quiet hum of life itself. Consider your brain for a moment. Right now, as you listen to these words, neurons are firing in patterns of extraordinary complexity. Each thought, each memory, each flash of recognition depends on electrons moving through the delicate architecture of your neural pathways. But here's what makes this truly magical. Many of these electrons don't simply flow along predetermined routes like water through pipes. Instead, they tunnel through the quantum barriers within your brain cells, appearing on the other side of molecular walls in ways that classical physics says should be impossible. In the synapses where your neurons meet, where thoughts are born and memories are stored, quantum tunneling plays a quiet but essential role. The electrical signals that carry your dreams, your hopes, your very sense of self, depend on particles that regularly vanish from one side of a barrier and reappear on the other. Your consciousness itself is built upon this foundation of quantum impossibility, this endless dance of particles appearing and disappearing in the most intimate spaces of your being. But the tunneling doesn't stop in your brain. It flows through every part of you, a constant river of quantum events that you never notice but could never live without. In your muscles, as you shift slightly in your bed, as your chest rises and falls with each breath, electrons are tunneling through the proteins that make movement possible. The very act of muscle contraction, the simple miracle of your heart beating, depends on quantum particles finding their way through molecular barriers. Think about your heart now, that faithful companion that has been with you since before your first breath. Each heartbeat is a symphony of quantum events. The electrical signals that coordinate your heart's rhythm travel through ion channels, tiny tunnels in your cell membranes. These channels open and close in response to quantum mechanical processes, allowing charged particles to flow in precisely timed patterns. Your heart doesn't just beat because of mechanical pumping. It beats because of quantum tunneling, because particles regularly disappear from one side of a membrane and reappear on the other. Even your sense of smell, the way you might notice the faint scent of flowers drifting through an open window, relies on quantum tunneling. When odor molecules reach the receptors in your nose, electrons tunnel through the molecular structures of these receptors, creating the electrical signals that your brain interprets as the sweet fragrance of jasmine or the crisp scent of rain. The poetry of scent itself is written in the language of quantum mechanics. Your DNA, the ancient library that contains the instructions for everything you are, is protected and maintained by quantum processes, the enzymes that repair your genetic material, that copy it when cells divide, that transcribe it into the proteins that build your body. All of these molecular machines rely on quantum tunneling to function. The very continuity of your existence, the way you remain you from moment to moment, depends on particles that routinely violate the classical boundaries of the possible. As you lie here in the gathering quiet, you might begin to sense this quantum activity as a gentle buzzing, a subtle aliveness that permeates your entire being. It's not something you can feel directly, but it's there nonetheless. Billions of tiny tunneling events happening every second, creating the continuous miracle of your existence. You are not separate from the quantum world. You are the quantum world, expressing itself in human form. This realization brings with it a profound sense of connection. The same laws that govern the behavior of particles in distant stars also govern the particles in your body. The quantum tunneling that allows electrons to power the fusion reactions in the sun is the same process that allows electrons to power the thoughts in your mind. You are made of the same fundamental stuff as galaxies and nebulae, governed by the same mysterious principles that create auroras and guide the formation of planets. But there's something even more beautiful about discovering these quantum processes within yourself. It means that the wonder you feel when contemplating the mysteries of the universe isn't just an abstract appreciation. It's the universe contemplating itself through you. Your capacity for awe, your ability to find beauty in the strange and impossible, is itself a quantum phenomenon. emerging from the tunneling of particles through the neural networks of your brain. The boundaries between inner and outer, between self and cosmos, begin to soften as you recognize that you are not just an observer of quantum reality, but a participant in it, a living expression of its deepest principles. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every moment of awareness is a quantum event, a small but significant part of the vast symphony of existence. In this recognition, there's a profound peace. You don't need to understand all the technical details of quantum mechanics to appreciate the miracle of your own being. You don't need to solve the equations or memorize the formulas. You simply need to rest in the awareness that you are, right now, a walking, breathing, dreaming expression of the universe's most fundamental mysteries. As you settle deeper into this quiet moment, you can almost sense these quantum processes as a gentle current running through your body, a subtle energy that connects you to everything else that exists. It's the same energy that flows through trees and rivers, through mountains and oceans, through the hearts of stars and the vast emptiness between galaxies. And in this sensing, a new question begins to emerge, soft and patient as moonlight. If you are so intimately connected to the quantum fabric of reality, what does this mean for your relationship with everything else that shares this cosmic dance? You are walking through a garden at twilight, where every path branches into countless others. But this is not an ordinary garden. This is the quantum realm, where the impossible becomes beautifully ordinary, and where you are about to discover one of nature's most gentle mysteries. Imagine, if you will, a single particle of light, a photon, approaching a fork in its path. In your everyday world, you would expect it to choose, left or right, this way or that. But here, in the soft quantum landscape that underlies all reality, something wonderful happens. The photon whispers a secret to the universe. Why choose at all? You settle into this thought like sinking into warm sand. The photon, you see, does something that defies your everyday experience, yet feels strangely familiar in dreams. It takes both paths simultaneously, not one, then the other. Not a quick decision between alternatives. Both paths, at the exact same moment, with the same gentle certainty that water flows downhill. This is superposition, a word that sounds complex but describes something as natural as breathing. You can picture it as a coin spinning in the air, neither heads nor tails, but both, suspended in that perfect moment before it lands. The photon exists in this spinning state, exploring multiple realities at once, like a curious child running down several garden paths simultaneously. You close your eyes and let this impossibility wash over you. In the quantum world, particles are not solid little marbles bouncing along predetermined tracks. They are more like whispered possibilities, gentle waves of maybe and perhaps, spreading outward like ripples on a still pond. Each ripple carries a different story, a different future, a different way the universe might unfold. Consider the famous double-slit experiment, told now as a bedtime story. You have a wall with two narrow openings, like windows in a house where light lives. When you send a single photon toward this wall, something magical occurs. The photon approaches both windows at once, slips through both openings simultaneously, and creates an interference pattern on the far side, proof that it traveled both paths and met itself on the other side, like greeting an old friend. This is not a trick or an illusion. This is reality at its most fundamental level, more real than the chair you sit in or the ground beneath your feet. The photon genuinely experiences both journeys, carrying the memory of both paths in its wave-like nature, creating a pattern that could only exist if it had, somehow, been everywhere at once. You breathe deeply and imagine yourself as that photon. Feel yourself approaching the fork in your garden path. Instead of the familiar anxiety of choice, you experience something liberating. the ability to explore all possibilities simultaneously. You walk left toward the rose garden, while also wandering right toward the fountain. You exist in multiple states of being, each equally real, each equally you. But here comes another layer to this gentle mystery. When someone tries to observe which path the photon actually takes, when they set up a detector to catch it in the act, something shifts. The moment of observation causes the photon to choose. It's as if the universe, suddenly aware of being watched, becomes shy and settles into a single reality. This is quantum measurement, and it feels less like forcing a decision and more like waking from a dream. The photon was always capable of being in both places, but observation gently coaxes it into our shared reality, like calling a cat that was simultaneously in all rooms of the house until you looked for it. You open your eyes in this quantum garden and realize something profound. The act of paying attention changes what exists. Your consciousness is not separate from reality. It participates in creating it. Each moment you observe the world, you are collaborating with the universe and deciding which possibility becomes actual. This makes you feel both humble and significant. Humble because you realize how much mystery surrounds the simplest things. Even light itself defies easy understanding. Significant because your awareness matters on the most fundamental level. You are not just watching reality unfold. You are helping it choose which story to tell. The quantum realm suggests that possibilities are not abstract concepts, but real, existing states that particles experience. Somewhere, in the mathematics that describe our universe, all the paths not taken continue to exist. Like books on an infinite library shelf, the photon that went left also went right. The decision you didn't make also happened. These alternate realities don't disappear. They simply become inaccessible to your current experience. You imagine this vast library of possibilities, each book containing a slightly different version of reality. In one book, the photon chose the left path and discovered something wonderful there. In another, it chose the right and found something equally beautiful. In yet another, it somehow chose both and experienced wonders you can barely imagine. This multiplicity of realities doesn't make your current experience less meaningful. It makes it more precious. Out of infinite possibilities, this is the reality you get to witness, the story you get to live. You are reading one specific book from the quantum library, and every moment of observation turns another page. As you contemplate this, you feel a deep peace settling in your chest. The pressure to make perfect choices softens when you understand that, in some sense, all choices are made, all paths are taken, all possibilities are explored. Your current path is just the one you happen to be conscious of, like focusing on one conversation in a room full of gentle murmurs. The quantum world whispers that uncertainty is not a flaw in reality, but its most beautiful feature. Without the ability to exist in multiple states, particles could not create the rich complexity that eventually becomes stars, planets, and the thoughts in your mind right now. Superposition is not just a curious quantum property. It's the creative force that makes existence interesting. You sit quietly in your quantum garden, surrounded by paths both taken and not taken, feeling grateful for this moment of chosen reality while sensing the infinite alternatives shimmering just beyond perception, like heat waves on a summer road leading towards something even more mysterious. You settle deeper into the quiet of this moment, feeling the world around you soften at its edges. The day's sharp certainties have dissolved, leaving something more fluid, more mysterious. Here, in the gentle darkness, you find yourself in a place that exists between what is and what might be, a space where the universe keeps its most beautiful secrets. Imagine, if you will, a marble rolling across a table toward a hill. In the world you know, the marble would need enough energy to climb over that hill to reach the other side. But in the quantum realm, something extraordinary happens. The marble can appear on the other side without ever having climbed the hill at all. It passes through what seems impossible, like a whisper moving through a wall. This is quantum tunneling, and it's happening all around you, even now. In the atoms that make up your body, in the stars that light the distant sky, in the very air you breathe. Particles are constantly slipping through barriers that should, by all classical reasoning, stop them completely. They move like gentle ghosts, finding pathways that exist only in the realm of possibility. You might wonder how something so seemingly impossible can be real, but consider how you feel right now, suspended between waking and sleeping. Your consciousness exists in a similar in-between space, not fully alert, not fully dreaming, but somewhere soft and liminal. In this state, thoughts can tunnel through the barriers of logic, connecting ideas that seemed unrelated just moments before. The mathematics of quantum tunneling speaks of probability waves, of particles existing in the multiple states simultaneously until the moment of observation collapses them into a single reality. But beneath these equations lies something profoundly beautiful. The universe is not as solid as it appears. It breathes with possibility. In your own body, quantum tunneling makes life possible. The sun's energy reaches Earth because hydrogen nuclei in its core tunnel through the electrical barriers that should keep them apart. Without this quantum dance, fusion could not occur, and the sun would be cold and dark. Your very existence depends on particles that learn to move through the impossible. The enzymes in your cells use quantum tunneling to catalyze the chemical reactions that keep you alive. Electrons tunnel through molecular barriers, allowing the intricate machinery of life to function with an efficiency that classical physics cannot explain. Each breath you take is made possible by quantum processes that operate in the spaces between certainty. Even your thoughts may depend on quantum tunneling. Some theories suggest that consciousness itself emerges from quantum processes in the brain, where information tunnels through synaptic gaps in ways that classical neurons alone cannot achieve. Your ability to dream, to imagine, to find connections between distant concepts, all of this may be quantum tunneling at work in the landscape of your mind. As you rest here, you can feel yourself becoming part of this quantum tapestry. Your boundaries soften, and you begin to understand that the separation between you and the world around you is not as absolute as it once seemed. You are not an isolated island of consciousness, but a temporary arrangement of quantum fields, connected to everything through invisible threads of possibility. The electron that tunnels through a barrier doesn't force its way through. It finds the spaces where the barrier is thin, where possibility allows passage. In the same way, your thoughts can tunnel through the barriers of old beliefs, finding new pathways to understanding. Problems that seemed insurmountable during the day become permeable in this quiet space, allowing solutions to emerge from unexpected directions. This is the gift of quantum tunneling. It reminds you that reality is far more flexible than it appears. Walls that seem solid have spaces within them. Barriers that appear absolute have hidden gateways. The universe is not a collection of separate, impenetrable objects, but a dynamic field of interconnected possibilities. In this moment, you are both the observer and the observed, the particle and the wave. You exist in the superposition of states that quantum mechanics describes, not yet collapsed into a single reality, but holding all possibilities simultaneously. This is not a limitation, but a liberation. In the space between possibilities, you find freedom from the constraints of either or thinking. The night air carries the subtle vibrations of quantum fields, and you breathe in possibility itself. Each molecule of oxygen has tunneled through countless barriers to reach your lungs. The carbon in your body once tunneled through stellar nuclear barriers to be created. You are literally made of particles that learn to move through the impossible. As you continue to rest, imagine yourself as a quantum particle approaching a barrier. Instead of being stopped, you find yourself on the other side, not knowing exactly how you got there, but understanding that the journey was always possible. The barrier was never as solid as it seemed. It was simply waiting for you to recognize the spaces within it. This is the meditation of quantum tunneling, recognizing that the barriers in your life, the fears, the limitations, the seemingly insurmountable challenges, are not as absolute as they appear. They have spaces within them, gaps where possibility can flow. Like the quantum particles that make up your being, you too can find pathways through what seems impossible.